and the darkness of an interior has given way to light. Do not close your eyes. Summer has arrived, another season among the many that have slipped into memory. This summer is the summer of our lives, a summer of no boundaries. People are joining hands, stepping from shadows to light. They are humming a tune. Walk with them, singing.
Good morning. I'm Mark Simpson. I'm glad to be here with you this morning. I'm really jazzed to see you. And if I can calm down here a minute. And it's good to see you. I'd like to welcome you to a service that includes poetry. Poetry that originates here on Whidbey Island, but in fact goes well beyond, in place and in mind. I'm reading along with my friend and co-author, Daniel Edward Moore. Both of us have been writing and publishing a long time. For several years, Daniel and I have been working together as merciless but supportive readers of each other's work. We've also co-authored a book of poems that responds to the environmental crises, and if you know of a publisher, let me know. The title we've given this service is The Word and the Flesh. Although the phrase suggests the Christian gospel verse, we mean it figuratively. We are of the Word, and believe me, our flesh is in every word we write. Daniel Edward Moore lives in Washington on Whidbey Island. His poems have appeared in Western Humanities Review, Southern Humanities Review, and others. His work is forthcoming in The Meadow, Kieran Review, Drunk Monkeys, Sandy River Review, Xavier Review, Third Street, and North American Review. His book, which you'll be reading from today, Waxing the Dents, is from Brick Road Press. And then Mark Simpson, strange. Mark Simpson has published 2 books of poetry, a chapbook, Fat Chance, from Finishing Line Press, and most recently, The Quieting, from Pine Row Press. His work has appeared in many poetry journals. He has a PhD in rhetoric and writing, but has never used it for the thing a PhD is typically used for, although he feels it has informed his life in a way he can't quite put his finger on. He has a calendar, and as each day passes, he places a careful X in the small white square of yesterday. Before we continue, I want to acknowledge those who are helping with the service today. Kate Nunn stepped in at the last minute to help with the service, and Jay Taxoni Hewitt is back here at the console, and Tom is out there doing the Zoom duty. So thank you all very much for your help today. And just a couple of announcements. Kate Shepard asked me to say this. There has been an interest in having a chalice circle that meets on Zoom. So if you are interested in this, please contact Effie Brown, who's here today, or Kate Shepard, and they can help you with that. And then also, please, after the service, you're welcome to join a Q&A session with Daniel and I. We'll be in the classroom over here. You can ask us questions. We can ask you questions. Talk about the poetry. So please grab a cup of coffee and head down there 10 minutes or so after the service. My gratitude to Eileen Soskin for providing music today. She has provided music notes which are in the order of service, which I recommend to you. Eileen also asked me to pass along this note about Chopin and Nola Allen. Noah and Frank Allen were founding members of UUCWI, and Noah was a superb pianist and played almost every Sunday for our services until she became ill. Eileen has never played Chopin here at UUCWI out of both respect for and as homage to Noah Allen. The piece she has chosen for the postlude today was the last piece Noah played here at UUCWI. So now, please join me in our affirmation. We will appear here. Yes, thank you. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is its practice. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to love one another.
So it's been a long time since I've read in a church. This is new and very encouraging, and I'm so honored and happy to be here. And I just want to really support and celebrate Mark and I's friendship, which is kind of the roots to this event for me. I just cannot speak highly enough that when Gay and Mark discovered us at the Oak Harbor Poetry Project, which my wife and I ran for 3 years with Snow Isle, it was just such a joy to hear Mark read and to be able to form the friendship that we have. So thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here. I'm going to be reading sets of 3 poems during this event. And from my book, Waxing the Dense, which was a finalist for the Brick Road Poetry Prize in 2020, and then was unfortunately never saw the light of day publicly because of the COVID epidemic. So just happy to be able to kind of revisit that with you folks. So the first 3 poems in this set are about my adoption, a poem about death. I thought I'd cover the spectrum really fast. And then at the very end, an elegiac poem for pride. To be a bi-queer poet and to remember the Fire Island boys is a really important moment for me. About my adoption. Rolling DNA dice at the adoption sock hop. How I got here at all. After no invitation and no directions, after one long night of you can't stop the blood, as the DNA dice on the rearview mirror of Mama's Alabama 57 Chevy danced to a violent pothole beat over 17 years of hot tar skin, making her blacker than Methodist white, making me grayer than a storm over Selma, the last southern lightning this boys would see after we got there at all. With me in the center, her hungry little crow pecking the future off the faded yellow line as the engine of creation met the craving of collision with the world bearing down on us both. Where a mother and son barely won after the game was over. This is the visitor. On a night like tonight, death looks like one naked man holding one black tulip. He offers it to me on one condition, that I pose as a vase, a coffin, a place where the sun can sleep on the water undisturbed by clouds. He feels like the wings of a purple moth wrapped around my body, submerging me into night's cocoon where I wait for a child to punch holes in the lid and the air to fill the jar. He sounds like thunder slapping the sky, like monks on their knees in the dead of winter, praying to a frozen god, or the shrieking alarms on the cardiac screen, the last numbers pushed on the heart's jukebox. He smells like oil on a city street after a summer rain. Technology's clean, destructive scent drifting from every gland. He tastes like a knife dipped in honey, causing the lips to close very gently on what can be swallowed but not given back. The Fire Island Boys. Warhol wasn't the only one who loved those Fire Island Boys. Marble statues cloaked in sand, whipped by pleasure's summer storms. Caution fainted on 1,000 zippers, 1,000 eyes and tongues. There was no such thing as a stranger's bed. Every mattress played the same song. Love as if loving can make you immortal, carving a valley of light through the shame and the crippling years of closet-shaped posture that broke the spirit's spine. Those were the days of aquatic ecstasy, steam baths swirling with deep-sea divers, trading their handfuls of pearls, risking their lives in the dangerous caves of some other man who had to be entered to prove how good, how beautiful he was, even if only for an hour. If I could weep as loud as they laughed, and rage as hard as they loved, maybe the young wouldn't die so fast, alone on the edge of a viral abyss, wailing at the red autumn moon, God waking up to the sound of his sons washing the sand from their eyes.
I'd like to read, I think, two poems that pretty much come out of my experience here. Yeah, three poems, as well as my experience in other ecclesiastical settings. The first one is called Covenant, and it's a little satire here. Um, I'm thinking, in thinking about this poem, and I think probably when I wrote it, I was thinking about all of those things that we say in different settings that become rote, that become just part of the background. And because of that, they start to lose meaning for us. At least that's my experience. And our acknowledgement, I think, has become that for me to some extent. It's a great thing, but saying it all the time, I think, it prevents me from thinking about what it says, which is my hang-up. This is called Covenant. This is my promise, to be the apostrophe of the ancient mother and befuddled father, to choose one of the 7 types of ambiguity and all its possibilities, to consider refusing in the time of refusing and vice versa, to be the gas above the swamp, generous with phosphorescence, illuminating what needs to be illuminated for the little things alive in the brackish water. To refuse self-reproach and embrace the trembling artificial, opening out like bandages or a tunnel. To drive the big Chrysler with the care it deserves. To acknowledge my place in the rough outline, to remain myself, bones under skin. The next poem is called Unfiltered Love, and of course, this also figures in our shared faith. I think if you do a search for love on the UUA website, you probably get a lot of hits. And so I guess my point is that one wonders if it means the same thing in every situation. So this poem kind of addresses that. Unfiltered love. I'm thinking of all the used oil filters in garages, landfills, backyard trash heaps that have filtered the oil of Toyotas, Buicks, Chevy Impalas, and those 3 dozen or so that filtered the oil of my dad's Bel Air, a carefully maintained finned hunk of American metal, blue deluxe chrome package. That's one good use of oil filters, keeping those engines running for years, the genius of their moving parts bathed in the crude of Pennsylvania and Texas, and those filters know what they are doing, dirt and metal filings caught in their cellulose fins, and what got through? Love, pure love, the gunk out, the oil, its viscous self, free to spread it around, and boy, did it ever. There are truths in our inventions. We've turned from thinking, what does a hunk of steel know? I don't know what those hunks know, but I do know unfiltered love kept them going 200,000 miles or more, which is about as far as I've gone. But I do know love's still running in my veins, a little river of it, coursing one tick at a time of plenty of infiltered love, a few more miles left, sending its message out to you wherever you are, so there might be a meeting of sympathies, a common coursing, unfiltered and doing its thing, tick after tick. I wrote the next poem. It's called Year, Y-E-A-R, Year Shaped Like a Wheel. Just around New Year's of this year, I was feeling some foreboding of what may be ahead in this year. And that's the experience this poem came out of. Year shaped like a wheel. Year shaped like a wheel, have you any news? The known has left. We are new, waiting. Year, what manner of speaking have you? Will we have hunger and plenty again? Year, is there a sign? The past is dust, the star descending. There was never any rock. There was a door. Someone in. There were never tongues. Will you speak freely? Year, have you any news? A deck of cards, face up, roulette wheel in its final turn, black, red, black, red. Year, are you a dice throw against a wall? Are you the word, the text, the blare of a truck backing up? We wait with ointment and vinegar sponge. We are resolute. We are the resolution. Year, have you any news? The wheel is turning. Year, let us begin. The hours are many, the days few. Please bless us as we step into your uncertain light. And now a hymn, if you... The poem, the hymn is breath in and breath out, and there are some specific instructions here from Eileen that I'd like to pass on to you. So, as I said, please do stay seated. Eileen will play the repetitive line whose text is breathe in, breathe out, which I think is a hymn you should know. You are invited to close your eyes and join in. Eileen will play the 2 additional lines of the hymn which harmonize with what you are singing. Feel free to sing those too if you know them. Eileen will slow down as the hymn is about to end, so you'll know when to stop singing. Please, though, keep breathing. get to go first, I'm going to read 3 poems. I read a book a couple years ago that it was recommended to me about the history of Whidbey Island. It was quite well researched. I think Rimmel can tell you the title because I don't remember it, but a great book. Anyway, so what it's done is gotten me to think about the past on this island, what happened, and so I've been writing a series of poems, imaginary, about that. This one is called West of Here, 1872. And the poem mentions a harpy. A harpy is a mythological creature, usually in the shape of a bird with evil intent. West of Here, 1872. A harpy above the field, bird-bodied, haggard with insatiable hunger. Where the sawyer lives, next to the door an axe, well honed, and another saw too large for one man. There is timber at the edge of the field. The axe makes overlapping echoes that grind a saw cannot cancel, although a harmony between them, each taking a turn taking. Felled timber is larger than standing timber. A man can take all day measuring. Stone grinds against axe, file against saw's steel. What are the promises we made, and why can we not remember them? That is not what the honed edge, the sharp teeth ask, hungry for a future. This poem is about an experience that perhaps you have had, I had recently. It's called Good News in the Install Guide, as in computers. Good News in the Install Guide. My trade is to welcome you to Whidbey Wi-Fi at home. Complications taken care of until the next time. Simple matter of the black box's lights from red to yellow to blue, charming you to belief. The kids are marveled into submission, the alchemist's prize an afterthought. Make the most of your new network, says Whidbey-Tel. Download the app. The App Store is a little cheesy today, but you've got active threat protection. You've got the content controls, the internet speed. The room fills with 5 megahertz. Please note the key is case sensitive. Turn it off. Wait 2 minutes. Time is a QR code, a body set to its default, set to the right hand. Tech support your God in the cloud, loud, clear, a solid blue light. The cable a leash, the screen the only great eyeball that matters. Now, it works sometimes. This poem is called The Sound and the Shape It Makes in Air. My whole childhood, I listened for it, not knowing exactly what I was listening for, or the shape it makes in air, or in the vacant stare of my brother who died before I was born, but seemed still a presence in our home. I thought I would know when it arrived and was afraid. Those precious years, a neighbor said, patting me on the head, yet nothing was precious then, nor certain, nor jinxed. Just there, one calendar page at a time, the calendar of impossible vistas in a closet by the back door. I saw my brother there once, a brief presence before I closed the door. It was unsettling, especially the first time I saw him there. But after that, he was just a feeling, unfortunate for a child my age. I remember his eyes, which were large, which seemed a shape in air, but not the one I was looking for. When I told my mother about my brother, she said, I know.
I'm making a switcheroo based on the inspiration of Mark's little reading here. So I have two poems I'd like to share about my father, whose real name is Emmanuel, which means God with us. And yet, being adopted into his family, he was also a Vietnam veteran. When he came back, I was violently abused for 4 years as a teenager. And we had kind of a really horrible relationship, of course, during that time with all the trauma. And yet this first title poem for the book, Waxing the Dense, is a tribute poem to our relationship at that time, and then more about the evolution of our spirituality, of our relationship. This is Waxing the Dense. Waxing the car with my father always made me dream of a Hollywood prize I would get for performing my role with such brilliance. A script totally void of spirit, with lots of stares and buckets of sweat. But the prize never came. No one outside the neighborhood knew that he rubbed it on and I rubbed it off, creating the delusion that father and son found mutual joy refurbishing steel that men in Detroit made in sweltering rooms with masks on their tired, weary faces. He thought the fact that we'd gathered there under a blazing, burnt August sky proved we had passed that place on the road where father and son kill each other for fun rather than spending a long, silent day waxing the dents in what men make to carry them both far away from each other. So my father's 95 years old and in really good health and lives in southern Ohio. And I'm always reaching out my vein to get the DNA transfusion since I have no connection to that longevity. So it's kind of a joke among us. This is for him. This is a redemptive poem about his beauty and his goodness and his name, Emmanuel. Caution steered his voice at 95, making me aware of how men with sirens looking for strangers along Highway 23 newly descended from a black winter sky above Columbus at 10 p.m. My father's latest revision of the story of how his son cannot die now, not before the apple butter's dark brown hem praises the sunrise over Menford, Ohio, not before the bed is pulled down for the body's joy, exhausted and bound more than ever to the mystery of a valley known for its childhood of frog legs and saints, and always the glory of a love found there, called beauty, called Ohio, or any other name that sounds like God is with us. So Mark's reference to the book on Whidbey Island, I don't know anything about that. I was very blessed, though. My wife and I had a chance to rent the Bierce family farmhouse in Coupeville for 5 years, and it was just cathartic. We lived in Coupeville. We had the blessing of this farmhouse, looking at the prairie and the ocean every morning. It was just ecstasy. And out of that came the questions, though, about when you live in paradise, how do you reconcile with both the beauty and the terror of Whidbey Island? Because they both are here. So I was given kind of the poetic challenge to write during that time in that solitude. And very honored, Washington State poet Tard Marshall put together a book called WA 129, the best of the best of 129 years of Washington State poetry. I submitted work. He chose my poem, A Ghost Minority, which ended up in the anthology. It's all about Coupeville. I'm going to share it with you now. It's called A Ghost Minority. Some people come to this B-movie town for how intense simplicity feels, for what it's like to be extras in a world drunk on beauty, but sad that they can't be more. Down on Front Street, restaurants and stores border the Penn Cove shore, where not long ago baby whales screamed as their mothers were dragged onto boats to live behind glass until death. But they died then, unknown to the world, in front of a camera's glass eye. Oh, Coupeville. I'm only 1% of 1,800 minds, a ghost minority telling the world what the majority won't. Like, why did Pratt's feet and his grave point north to throw off the angels on Judgment Day when they come for the saints at Sunnyside? And why did he build a cabin for his boy to live in, shielding his ears from the flesh that he loved through 25 feet of silence? Other unmarked historical scars are not important now. Not as important as the words diving at me. Islands will take revenge on those who regard them as personal Edens. I did not staff the Welcome Center to a world made famous by mussels and clams, where anyone's likely to open and close and find something missing inside. Something quite smaller than a whale.
One Sunday each month, our offering is given to a would-be nonprofit group. On other Sundays, someone is in this pulpit explains that we need your donations to help this congregation thrive. You know this, which is why many of you have already given, why you have pledged ongoing support. Thank you. This congregation is renewing itself. We are growing in size, in understanding, in love. We have much to offer to the larger community. I come to you again, humbly asking you to donate your offering so that we may grow and thrive and serve. You may, of course, donate through our website. Thank you for your gifts. At a time. I'd like to read a couple of poems that are Whidbey Island inspired. You've probably seen the LiDAR photos of the island. LiDAR photos are those taken from space or above anyway, airplane space. And they strip away all the vegetation so that you can see the geological, geographical aspects of the island very clearly. So that's mentioned here. And this poem begins with a quotation from the poet David Hernandez, which is, quote, "We will be there with our brooms," unquote. Island. We have a word that's a little kinder than narrow stretch of rock that glaciers scoured but didn't take. No one mentioning those impressive LiDAR photos of a skeleton, a body's remains. Like you, I try to make this place something else. After the earthquake, neighborhoods rearranged, bridges down, ferry belly up like a fat whale in Saratoga Passage. We will invent a word for the rearrangement, but not yet. In this bliss, we do not believe where we are won't be. It's titled The Smoke of August. It begins like dusk arriving on city streets, in the way country roads digress to fields of stubble or farther to a sea. It slides through trees, lingering. It rubs itself against leaves and stems and becomes itself not a night or day, but a sleep, a thing that comes and sleeps. Their air is tedious with a light made yellow by the air. It seems peaceful then, brings a sound almost there, beneath the breath, remembered like a childhood prayer. The sprawling thing we've made makes our going cautious, as a fool tries a door that doesn't open and then another. We do not see the fire beyond the hills themselves we remember as always there, like a universe or a grocery with shelves once stocked richly in colors we adored. This is titled The Floating World. The Floating World. Not voices, not music. It has the rhythm of inward space that collects whatever rises and falls, like the promised and expected, the impersonal and exhausted. In the lottery of times and places, you have to place your bet to play, an inelegant way to think of a world that floats, a sphere among other spheres. I have, although I want less floating, to simply let it go, as one might release indrawn breath, to think of it as less orb and more earth, a strange and thoughtful substance to absorb our misunderstandings and to live in it, a photograph enhanced into colors accurate, terrifying and beautiful, its rhythm audible and sure. I think I'm going to read one more. I would like to read this because it is, I think, a timely poem. Many of us in this congregation, a number of us have lost loved ones in the recent past, and I have too. This is called The Cremation of Barbara Bloom, who was my sister. The Cremation of Barbara Bloom. The unbreathing will not give up its last breath. An infinity, the way the breath goes on, the body continues. The flame and what it does, a means, not an end. The dust, a continuation, a breath, a body alive in its own way, now and forever.
So this seems even more appropriate than ever to select 3 love poems to end this reading from for me, because for me, all roads lead back to the beloved Elle, my wife Laura, and these 3 poems are for her. Eschatology, her first love poem, written 25 years ago. Even though you can take me any way you want, you've chosen to take me seriously. With teeth in my skin reminding me why boundaries bleed in pleasure's war against the domination of reason. Why permeable shifts between then and now means the sheets will be changed long before dawn, before the sun spreads her legs, giving birth to a world where the first thing I feel is the breath of God on my back. Watching you sleep like the book of hours resting on the lap of God. This ring I wear wears me now. It's the first time it happened, the last time it will. The first time love ever sounded like monks breaking bread on an altar of flesh. The last time you'll turn from a dreamless wall and not find me dreaming of you. Everything's eschatology, darling, the old fulfilled by the new. And that's why I'm here on our first Christmas morning, picking the straw from your hair. Well, when I redid my little order here, I got all discombobulated. Thanks, Mark. Just kidding. This is called The Seamstress and the Tailor. I remember her trying me on, hands slipping through holes in my words, fingers dripping in adjective oil, tying the nouns and pronouns together for fear they might be unwound or erased, like so many names in the poems before your own walked across the page. Thus began our obsession with fashion, the when to strip down and tease the light with every trembling, violent verb, the when to dress up and shelter the skin from all things cold in a stranger's eye, but only things that are cold. When the sanctity of speech is threatened, the 10 commandments on the stone of our bed bounce like Babel with no line breaks, an unholy syntax of do it or else, expecting too much from these lovers of words. Only then do we slowly consider what cloth should grace these bodies gone silent. But trust me, relics of the runway, we are not. The seamstress in me and the tailor in her are bound by garments made of trees. We bleed paper from metaphor's marrow. Red ink suffers the least in this world. Everyone knows that by now. Another great honor of 25 years of being married to the Elle is that as a visual artist, our life has been transformed into visual art over the years, and often in times in kind of conspiracy with the poetry. This is a poem written in honor of one of those moments. It's called Parasympathetic Pink. Somewhere between crest and crash, you remember to paint the sky with relief, a parasympathetic pink. Like the morning sweat of 14 years drying on a canvas, our bodies were chaos framed by care. when hope crumbled into pinches of salt, into pleasure's sea of drown, no don't, there you stood like a lightning rod on the edge of swim in me. Both of us needed the shore to be more than a church where the sun is praised, more than pews of emerald waves where jellyfish sting hallelujahs. Climbing the cliffs, steps of scars from a driftwood shack of bones, made falling back down less romantic, less real, like suffering losing its paddles that night beneath the shadow of a pearl. Hold me down, a brush in your glass. I will beg to be pink again, to feel myself splash off the end of you, like Pollock using bourbon for blue. Thank you.
This is serious stuff. In planning the service, I had an email conversation with Eileen, and she said at one point, you know, there are probably enough words in the service as it is. And so we're not going to sing the final hymn. For the final hymn, please stay seated. Eileen will play a brief introduction, and then you are invited to close your eyes and hum this tune the second time through. But you can sing if you wish.
The flame of our chalice burns true, a small flame, yet beautiful in the way its delicate blue curves unerringly, with grace. Even though we extinguish the chalice, its flame continues in you. Let your flame be nourished by the flame we share.